Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about CoD 2016 or Infinity Ward's next Call of Duty. Unfortunately, I don't know the title. I don't have any leaks or intel or anything, which would be the only year that I haven't had that recently, but I've got no unique info for you, but a lot of people want to know my opinions. It's one of the most requested topics in live streams. I almost screwed up that wall run right there, and it's also one of the most requested topics in my inbox. I know that a lot of other CoD commentators have done this, and I've been kind of wearing my hipster hat and avoiding the topic because I try not to do work that other people have done, but the requests keep coming, so I shall grant them. Unlike normal, I will be doing the negative thoughts on CoD 2016 first, and then I'll be doing the positive ones later on. As we know, with each new Call of Duty game, there is a lot of potential for greatness or for failure, and I'm kind of scared for Infinity Ward right now because they've been facing major management issues at a critical time. If you look at it historically, Modern Warfare 3 was plagued with having been developed by two studios, Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer Games. Sledgehammer was brought in because Infinity Ward could not finish on time because half of them quit to go form Respawn Studios. So they had a major management change up. They brought in a new studio and it was complete chaos. A lot of people loved Modern Warfare 3. I really didn't. In my opinion, it's my least favorite CoD game. I had a lot of frustrations with that one. Following that, Infinity Ward got the shaft again developing CoD Ghost. This was back before we had a 3-year cycle. They had 2 years to develop Call of Duty Ghost, and they had to develop it for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 before they came out using the specs that Microsoft and Sony gave them respectively, but without the actual hardware. And if I'm not mistaken, some of the actual hardware came in way later than it was supposed to, and some of it changed. Like, Microsoft didn't tell anybody how much of the RAM or the CPU the OS would use, so they had to scale it back based on that. Also, they had to develop on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PC, and Wii, so they had 6 consoles, including 2 new ones. It was a complete nightmare, and as such, I think that's probably the key thing that hurt Ghost, which is universally considered one of the worst CoD games ever made. So we've got 2 management issues, 2 sort of critical, we'll say, flubs in the past, and we kind of have a new one coming. This time around, Infinity Ward has recently absorbed Neversoft, or I say recently, I think it's been about 2 years now since they absorbed Neversoft, so that's new employees, new management, new people to learn, you know, the CoD code and all that kind of stuff. But they also hired a new multiplayer developer, who was one of the developers that worked on their past games, you know, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, which a lot of you would say is a good thing, except that he recently quit. So they hired him from Respawn to come back and work at Infinity Ward, and they hired him to be lead multiplayer developer, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I'm getting my facts right here, which is a very big title that puts you in charge of a lot of things. And if I'm not mistaken, you're like one of the bosses of the company. Like, you're pretty high up. You're going to be paid well, very well compensated. But this guy quit. He worked for 6 months, maybe less than 6 months, and he just straight up quit Infinity Ward before the project was finished to go back to Respawn and work on Titanfall again. This to me is a scary thing because he was basically the boss of multiplayer, and he just straight up and quit and left the studio to go back and be a grunt at the other place and not be a lead dev, as long as, if I'm not mistaken. So this says a lot to me. This says the incentives weren't right. This says maybe it wasn't fun to work there. This says maybe he knew something and just bailed before his name got put on it. It really legitimately scares me that this happened. So that's all my negative thoughts. So I'm going to cue the end to doom and gloom here, and we're going to swap over to some more positive things. This is the first time ever in the history of Infinity Ward that they've had 3 years to work on a product. Infinity Ward has always been turning over 2-year products, and it's been very difficult to work under those time constraints. So, you know, where Sledgehammer had 3 years and Treyarch had 3 years, this time Infinity Ward gets a full 3 years, and they're not crunched from time unlike the other guys. This is also the first time that they're not going to have to develop on last gen or Wii U. So they're going to be doing Xbox One, PS4, and PC, which means their resources will be far less divided up than they will be in Ghost. They don't have the sort of RAM and technological constraints even for Modern Warfare 2 that they had for the past consoles. It gives them a lot more tools to work with, and I want to see what they can do with it, which is very, very good. So, talking about new management and new employees sounded mostly bad, and I will admit that it is largely mostly bad. However, with new employees also means new talent, new ideas, new ways to code things, new ways to fix old bugs, new completely different multiplayer ideals and goals and single-player ideas. So it could be very, very good. Also, new management isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially since everybody was grumpy about Ghost. It couldn't hurt to change up the management, so I think that's very good. Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 are still the most popular CoD games in Call of Duty history. I mean, when people think about Call of Duty, they're usually thinking about CoD 4, MW2, and MW3, and this is the studio that brought you those games. Still, like, yeah, we complain about Ghost or whatever, but no, they still brought you 3 amazing games, and that's very, very good. What makes this so good is that the community has been demanding a remake for a very, very long time. The community has been very adamant about wanting a Modern Warfare Master Collection, and if they're going to bring one, now is the time to bring one. That could be a possibility. Also, Infinity Ward has never made a non-boots-on-the-ground game. Infinity Ward has thus far expressed no interest in jetpacks or thruster packs or exos or cyborgs or anything like that. So a lot of the old-school COD fans that are very frustrated with all this newfangled kind of movement mechanics or this unrealistic this and this goofy story that, you're far less likely to see that from Infinity Ward than you are from any other studio. Now, Sledgehammer came out swinging with the exosuits. Treyarch has always been way off in Crazy Town. They've never been on the same train. Infinity Ward is more likely than any other studio to bring you the near future realism boots on the ground combat that a lot of people have been wanting. I don't know if the greater community is going to be able to go back to boots on the ground, because not only has Call of Duty and Halo, but just about every shooter ever moved away from boots on the ground. They've moved to doing totally other stuff with the movement mechanics. I'm kind of scared that if we go back to boots on the ground, we're going to say it's slow paced, but people really might enjoy that. Infinity Ward has had a great track record with map and level design, and they've also had a really good track record with developing very, very memorable and very powerful weapons. I imagine they'll do that again. Every single game they've ever made has always had very memorable and good guns, so that's a very good thing, of course. Call of Duty Ghost had amazing hit detection, and after maybe the first month when we had a lot of patches done, it was relatively lag-free. I mean, of course, you'd get a few bad games here and there, but it definitely wasn't laggy, and the hits were solid. They were crisp, they were clean. Almost nobody complained about lag or hit detection in Call of Duty Ghost, so it'll be very good to bring back to the front. Actually, you could just like not change that. You could just leave that alone. We don't have to mess with the network and bring that back. That'd make a lot of people happy. I bet that Clan Wars is coming back. I really don't like Clan Wars. I've made several videos on this. I don't think Clan Wars is good for the Call of Duty franchise. So in my personal opinion, Clan Wars coming back is a negative thing. It's a bad thing. However, there are people that very strongly disagree with me and love Clan Wars. They've been kind of butthurt that Clan Wars has not come back for Black Ops 3, and those people are likely to get rewarded because Infinity Ward loves Clan Wars, and I'm just betting that they bring it back. Esports support, however, was not so great the last time around. Pros really didn't like playing the game modes. They didn't like a lot of, or the lack thereof, of custom settings, and they didn't like being forced to play, what was that mode where you ran through Blitz, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they hated being forced to play Blitz instead of CTF. So, and we also had the bomb glitch. They played for like, what, $500,000 worth of money with the bomb glitch still active. So I'm not super optimistic about the esports support, though hopefully it is getting better, because this year in Activision as a whole, big organization, has their own esports department and their own esports broadcasting and all this complicated stuff going on. So that's kind of about it on my opinion. We'll probably find out what they're working on, be it Ghost 2, something totally different, or Modern Warfare Collection this spring. They tend to do teaser announcements like really early in the spring and more like a full one in April, and then you get a big reveal at E3, so we'll know by then. But that's kind of how I feel about it. It's mixed feelings, right? Because I'm really legitimately scared by all the management problems they've been having. Yet at the same time, this is the first time they've been able to go to their full potential. They don't have to worry with last gen, and they get a full 3 years. So we're gonna see what they make of it. Guys, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.